In this video, I'll show you how I painted up General Veers for Star Wars Legion. Hello everyone, my name is Spencer and I'm trying to improve my mini painting skills, and welcome back to my series of painting up all my Star Wars Legion armies. In this video, I'll overview how I painted up this lovely General Veers model from Atomic Mass Games. To start, we need to spruce up his base a bit, and we saw General Veers in Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, leading the assault on Hoth. So I knew that for his base, I wanted it to be on Hoth, but I also wanted him to be commanding the battlefield. So half of his base will be like an Imperial forward listening post, flat terrain, and then leading into a snowy area. To build the base area, I took a square punched out piece of polystyrene, glued it down to the base, and then smoothed it out with both my Dremel and some sandpaper, just to make sure it had a nice flush match with the rest of the base. And then for the snow area, I could use some fine texture paste, making sure to lightly overlap the polystyrene. But before the paste had enough time to dry, I came in and I glued down a larger piece of slate rock so I could push it into the wet paste so it looks like one cohesive environment. But once the paste and the glue had enough time to dry, then we could glue Veers down so he could command the battlefield. And ultimately, I wanted him to either be like just on the outside of a forward listening post or pointing out from an Imperial encampment. Then to kick off the painting process, we can prime Veers black and then throw down some initial tones of a dark saturated green. For this process, I'm following a PDF guide that Sarastro made, so I'll make sure to link it if you want to find the exact colors that I used. I decided to try some new techniques on the face, as this model is pretty straightforward and monotone, so I started by basing all the shadows with a royal purple, picking out all the upraised edges of the face with a red oxide color, and then undershading with a bright yellow green to bring out the absolute highlights of the skin. Then at this point, I can apply tiny white dots and even smaller black pupils, not worrying about the boundaries too much, as everything up to this point has been very quick and I'm treating this as the sketching phase. Once I was happy with the eyes, I could then apply multiple thin layers of an advanced flesh tone to the entirety of the skin, keeping only the deepest parts purplish. And then since Veers is actually fairly fair skin toned, I added some peach flesh into the advanced flesh tone layers at the very most highlights to bring out his complexion to the best of my ability. Once the technical skin part of the project was kind of squared away, I could then move into base coating the rest of the colors. First, I decided to start with the black leathers, which is effectively just a black with a little bit of blue incorporated into it for future steps, especially the highlighting. This will help a lot. And I just went around the model picking out the black parts that needed to be highlighted, including the boots, gloves, belt, and helmet trim. I've also painted a few electro binoculars already for my Imperial army, but I was never really satisfied with how they looked. So for this one, I actually came in with a bright neutral gray, and then I gave it a one-step coat of graphite gray, just to bring it down to a bit more realistic of a color. And then I edge highlighted the utmost areas with a mix of the bright neutral gray and the graphite gray, eventually pushing it to smaller areas of just bright neutral gray, sorry. Then for his armor, I added some blue-black into the green color to help it differentiate it from his fatigues. And for this project, I'll also be working on my lighting directions for this project, so I made sure to focus it in the top right area where he's looking. Once all the base colors were established, I could then work on highlighting the boots and other black leathers all along the model. I just wanted to keep pretty simple, so I just added various levels of white into the black mix I had made, trying to make the leather that nice imperial clean shine look. I did push the highlights higher than they needed to go, faster than they needed to go, but then I came in with a glaze of a mid-tone to help bring them down a bit, but the underlying highlights were still really visible underneath. For the goggles and the helmet head dressings, I actually didn't bring down the highlights. These I left at a nice gray tone because I feel like it gave some needed variation within the model. Then to highlight his army fatigues, I added some faded green into the green I had airbrushed on from earlier. And actually, this turned out to be my favorite part of the entire project. I really enjoy Pro Acryl's faded colors. They have faded green, faded plum, faded ultramarine, and something about their saturation really calls to me. And I was just really happy with how this one turned out, and it makes me want to paint several thousand, green army men with this color. But ultimately, I just picked out the raised areas where the light would be hitting, and then I came in and reinforced the seams with the original green color. Then for the darkest areas of the uniform, I came in with a light brown glaze just to give a little bit more variety in the shadows. And then to work on highlighting the armor, I took our green blue from before and slowly added more of the faded green, the same color I used to highlight the fatigues. But since this armor I wanted to be metallic and a bit shinier than the fatigues, I ended up adding more and more, localizing the highlights to create some nice glints, and highlighting the breastplate and helmet where the light would be coming from. I'd made several thin layers of this just to try and build up the gradients as smoothly as possible. And then ultimately at the utmost highlights, I almost used a pure faded green at that point.
While I highlight the armor, I want to talk about the one thing that popped up in this project that's been popping up in my head recently as I paint more and more. And it's the concept of managing expectations for myself in terms of my ability to paint, my availability to even participate in the hobby, and really like what I am trying to get out of this right now and in the near and far future. Every time I start a project, I have this grand vision of what I want it to be. And with almost every project, I have found myself kind of being unfairly judgmental to my work, where there's always this point of this doesn't look right, this doesn't look screen accurate, and I kind of get in my own way a bit. So with Veers, one of my main goals was to not think as much when I was painting. I just wanted to throw down all the base colors, build up some highlights, and then try and take a step back and evaluate my progress so far. And actually, I feel like that helped a lot this time, where especially with the skin tones and the army fatigues, I'm actually really pleasantly happy with how those turned out. So I'll try to be more mindful about just painting for expression more than anything else moving forward.
Then to clean up Veers' Imperial badges, I took some just black and I covered the entirety with it. So then I could come in with my red and my blue and create 8 little tiny dots, red on top, blue on the bottom. Then focusing on the base a bit, for the Imperial base side, I wanted to put down a slate gray color. And then for the Hoth side, I started with a charcoal gray, ultimately giving us a 50-50 black-white cookie type style base, I guess. I choose slate gray for Imperial bases because I think it looks a little bit more interesting than the typical glossy black of most Star Wars bases. So even though it might not be lore accurate, I think it just reads better on the table. Then for the Hoth exterior, I came in with a heavy dry brushing of Stonewall Gray. And then I can come in with a brown gray wash to bring back some more of those earth tones into the flat areas. I also made sure to spill this over a little bit onto the Imperial base side, because I kind of wanted to give the illusion that snow had been melting going into it, or as people were leaving, entering, slush was being, moved from the outside in. Plus, it'll just tie the two halves in together pretty well. Then, to make sure the ground is covered with snow, I put a snow texture paste down. And this is ultimately just to cover the areas that I know eventually should be covered in snow. But to actually build up the volume of the snow, I have a snow texture paste I make out of matte medium and soft flake snow from Woodland Scenics. This helps bring it up into like the snowy Hoth battlefield more than just like white paint over rocks. And then I admittedly forgot to do this earlier, but I forgot to highlight the goggles a bit because just the black seemed a little stale to me. So I added some blue growing into a lighter blue and then almost a white dot at this front in order to reinforce the concept that there's a reflection coming down at Veers from this angle and that he's outside supervising an assault on a rebel base. Finally, once I was happy with where we were at, I could then paint the base black and we can move on to some glamour shots. I'd like to take this moment to say thank you to everyone for watching this video. It really means a lot to me. I like sharing my hobbies and trying to become a better painter. If you like this project or want to see other projects like this, please feel free to like and subscribe. There will be lots of mini painting, lots of diorama making in the future. But other than that, I hope you all have an excellent week and I will see you in the next one. Bye.